So, we're Astro Manatee. Like Pete said, we were the second team for Transfuser. We graduated from here last year, two of us. A fourth member, our programmer, he's from London. And our sound designer, Scott, graduated from the sound course this year. So, as you can probably tell by the picture, we're based in Manchester. So, they basically what Overwatch Transfuse was anyway. So yeah, it's a 10-week project run by the UK Games Fund. 6 teams get picked out of however many are in the competition at EGX. And then you go on to pitch on Wednesday. Like they said, we're not actually allowed to tell you what the results were. So our game is called Voltaic. I'll play a GIF actually. So, like I said, that was made in 10 weeks. It's basically a top-down twin-stick shooter. It's network multiplayer. The main USPs are the projectiles that players fire bounce, and you have to move to reload, meaning that the gameplay is constantly moving, you never stand still. Everything's based around competition, even the game mode we went for, which was basically essentially oddball in Halo. So the player grabs hold of the sphere, that's in the centre of the map, the longer they hold on it, the more points the more points they earn. When they drop the sphere, someone else has the opportunity to pick it up and start earning points. The players are fitted with a UI, this here, that has an arrow in it that always points to it, meaning that all the players are always constantly going converging on the same singular point. We designed it around basically being child-friendly as well as sort of like, the target audience we're aiming for was 16 to 25-year-olds, because it's a very competitive game. It's Twitch-based, which means that obviously younger kids are less physically adept to playing the game. But we wanted a game mode where kids can easily win the game against older people without feeling as if they're getting dominated, because if it was a team deathmatch and an older person was more skilled than them, they're going to lose more or less all the time. We felt like we really achieved that, because there was a lot of instances where kids actually beat parents. Don't know if that was the case of, oh no, you're better than me because you're my child, I want you to win. But there was actually opportunities where, say, one of us would be standing in because there was only 3 people playing the game, and we'd actually lose to the kid, despite us being the ones who made it, which is quite embarrassing, to be honest.
We're not good at the game.
Speak for yourself. The game's primarily multiplayer focused. The entire game at the minute is multiplayer. It works via, I don't know if you've got to understand this, no. It works via online, networked. We've got it working through LAN, and we also have it work through Splitscreen, which he's going to talk about a bit in a bit. In regards to art style, we had a plan to go for a more realistic art style, a bit like Victorian era England, with a bit like Tesla thrown in there, stuff like that. We went at about the 5 or 6 week mark.
5-week mark, yeah.
We went to Sheffield and we spoke to Sumo Digital, and they gave us a load of really good feedback. They really liked the game, so we knew mechanically we were going in the right direction. Art-wise, however, they basically went, why can't it just be triangles and stuff? Because our main character was actually just the cone that's in Unreal turned 90 degrees sideways, just so you know where you're aiming. And the developers were like, oh, we thought that was the actual character. It's good. It was just a triangle with a white material on it. So they went, yeah, don't bother with this really hard, realistic art style, because we've only got 10 weeks. Just give us something gamey. With that, we went through like 2 or 3 iterations until we settled on this about 2 days before we had to submit it. Yeah. So one of the big things we're taking away from EGX is that we're going to basically go back to the art style and overhaul everything.
Again, for the 3rd time.
Yeah. It doesn't bother me. My mechanics were good.
No, they are. It doesn't bother you when 5 weeks worth of work is down to it. It's fine.
So, in regards to using UE4, Blueprint is the best thing since sliced bread, especially as a designer such as myself, because we only had one program on the project, which means that I could basically help him do all the mechanics, whereas he did all the systems behind the scenes, all the hard stuff, I did all the easy stuff. Again, because it's all networked, it does take a lot longer than just what it would be in single player. The in-engine source control is going to make Ben cry because we use Tortoise SVN. It's actually pretty good, don't listen to him. So that was... Okay.
Alright, I'm now not using total assessment.
So yeah, the in-engine source code was really big use for us. Like it was really easy with the fact that we had a remote. Our programmer was in London, so it was all remote. So it was really easy for him to throw things on the project, and then us to just go in and change a couple little things. I got shouted at so many times for accidentally changing something, being like, "What are you doing?" And then basically overruling whatever I did. Yeah, the art style does make the game look pretty-ish, especially in UE4. A lot of that's thanks to Connor, because he came up with the flow. He was alright. So, the struggles.
Right, Dan's talked about all the stuff that worked, so now I get to talk about everything that's horrible, as usual. So yeah, as you can see, multiplayer makes everything take a massive amount of time longer. Like, you had there's like tons of issues. Like, we'd never really done multiplayer before, and we just had like so many issues. Like, one of the ones we found was we did like our first play test for like 4 network computers, and nothing worked. Everything latency-wise was like a second, and it was because we were checking about a billion things on the server. The server was storing like all the information, and we were never like culling anything. So by the end of a game, you'd have the server telling each PC the 7 million different variables it had to keep track of to make sure players were good, which did slow it down slightly.
Just to interject, our program also put in a remove garbage every time a player died, so it made the game lag horribly every time someone died. He forgot about it, so when we were trying to fix this chunk of lag that was happening every time someone died, we found it maybe 2 weeks later, and we were like, why is that in there? He's like, oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So that was big thing. Obviously, multiplayer takes time out, so it was very important that we had good contingency. Shout out to tonsillitis. I think our programmer has had every disease under the sun, and then some we didn't know about before this project. So he, I think, has probably worked about 6 weeks of the 10.
Yeah, because he's been in bed dying.
Because he's been in bed dying. So contingency was obviously a big thing, like in the planning stages. We didn't have a contingency specifically for Steve being ill for 4 weeks, but we had contingency in, and that was obviously a big deal. It also came in handy as well when 5 weeks in we lost all the art and I started again from scratch. Not better. So that was obviously really important, and the fact that we put contingency in was probably like one of the biggest reasons we managed to get it out of the way. And the next big problem, Splitscreen. So as I said, originally we designed it 4-player LAN working through Steam, and then 2 weeks before we were at EGX we got an email saying, you said you wanted 4 computers, you can have 1. So that was fun. There was a lot of scrambling about. We were talking to other teams can we share a booth with 3 other teams? Just use it for an hour and then go away for 3 hours and then come back. Because there were a couple of other teams there who had also designed multiplayer games. Because originally when we pitched, we did ask about it. And no, it'll be fine. It wasn't fine. So yeah, Splitscreen, we basically rebuilt the entire game, pretty much.
More or less.
Yeah.
But at least we've now got our split screen and online
it now
working.
Works on both of them, yeah. We basically rebuilt the entire game in about 2 weeks to get it working split screen for EGX. But like Dan says, it does work now, and I'm glad it did because it was really fun, split screen. Split screen also helped with one of the EGX bugs we had, which was the UI around the player that pointed towards the flag. The EGX build didn't always work with that. Sometimes it was there, most of the time it was there. Sometimes it disappeared, but having it split screen was quite nice because it was like, you've lost your pointer towards the flag, but you can see the other 3 players, so just watch their screens a little bit. Cheat, it's fine. It's a feature now. So another big problem we had, we're all poor. Transfuser gave us some money towards us. I don't know if the other people talked about it, but one of the things about being accepted onto it was that you did get some money. You got $5,000 for the 10 weeks development, which is very kind of them. But at the same time, I like eating, and so we battled a little bit. Scott and Steve both were alright, but me and Dan both have like part-time jobs. We both work in bars, different bars, but yeah. So obviously that's
Completely relevant.
Trivia, Dan. Spice things up a bit. Yeah, no, so obviously that was another thing. It was a drain on the project. We were both working 2 days a week for Dan, 3 or 4 for me, depending on how much I needed to eat. And that obviously takes away from development time, which was another reason why, back to it again, contingency was so important. Very tight on time, basically. Working remotely, as we said, Steve in London. So it's not exactly like you can just go over to him, see what he's doing, which is, as Ben mentioned, tools really become important in these sort of things. So Taurus SVN, despite him hating it, it's our source control, we did it. Slack, probably after Unreal the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And Trello. Yeah. So those are all really important getting the thing finished. EGX 2016, we were there. There's the other team. That's a picture of it. I've not seen this presentation before. Coming back earlier to that point about needing to eat, I've been at work for like 3 days straight and I've not seen any of them. Right, so there's some picture play testing, split screen, obviously. People played it. Reception was quite good, we thought. As Dan said, you did get the children playing it who were exactly our target audience, ages 16 to 25s. They did play it, they did enjoy it. Sometimes they beat their parents. Sometimes the parents got a little bit competitive and absolutely destroyed the children. And that was and it was really good when a couple of times we got our core demographic in the 16 to 25-year-olds. We had the perfect game, 4 mates, all at EGX, all played it, and you'd find they'd play one game and they'd be like, oh, that was good, like, I think I understand it now, like, I've learned it, I've learned the mechanics. Do you mind if we have another game? And then people got competitive, and that was really fun to watch. It is funny watching people's faces when...
I think that was one of the examples of people getting really competitive with each other.
Yeah, no, they are quite... Yeah, no. So that was great. So, after EGX, we won-ish. We were one of the 6 teams that got through along the Cold Sun. There's a lovely picture with all the Cold Sun up somewhere there, way down there, last team. So we got through one of the 6 teams and we went up to Edinburgh to pitch, and, well, down there to Edinburgh. And similarly to Cold Sun, we can't tell you the results about how that went on Monday, but
It's fine. We didn't actually say anything.
Didn't say anything. That could be taken either way. Right. Thank you for your time. Ask some questions if you like. If not, I'll go sit back down.
Yo.
You guys talked about having to stop at one point and go through a lot of your code when you introduced split screen.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering how, like, I'm a programmer and I have to change or refactor a lot of code. It's not too bad for me, but I was wondering what is it like with blueprints if you're a game designer?
Do you mean as in like changing from online to split screen?
Yeah.
So I didn't do that, our programmer did that. But he basically spent 7 or 8 or 9 days not sleeping, just powering through because like we were on a very, very tight deadline before EGX. Considering it worked more or less perfectly, there was like the one bug Jag mentioned, and there's another little bug where if you killed someone immediately after they died, then it didn't come up on the kill feed that anyone killed them. It was just as if they killed themselves, sort of thing. But other than that, like, we were really impressed by the lack of bugs.
Minor bugs. It's,
Yeah.
it's the most playable thing I think we've ever.
Considering there was 10 weeks in it and we made it split screen, online and LAN, I think we did pretty well for ourselves. We only have 2 bugs in the game. We're quite proud of ourselves. Yep.
Yes.
When you were talking about joking, saying something's a feature, because it went wrong and what have you. getting to show it in front of that many people, were there any things that people did with the game that you thought, oh, I hadn't considered even doing that, and did showing that many people make you think about how you could design further into the game afterwards?
It's mechanically it's quite simple. So I don't think there was anything outstanding. There was a couple of things where we were like, we know we need to improve this. Like for example, when the player picks up the sphere, especially on Splitscreen, it's not, unless you've played the game before and you know the arrow's there, it's really not communicated well enough. Like people are like, oh, who has the sphere? You have to like screen look. Because at the minute, the only thing that shows it, that someone has the sphere, is the arrow pointing to them, and they have a big white trail and like a pulse around them. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not enough sort of thing. So that's one thing we're going to go back to the drawing board and
there was some other things with like level design wise. Like you did find that people
exploited some little tiny areas of the level.
Yeah, and like play styles evolved. The wall of death was quite a nice one. Basically, it's like quite like the idea of the map is it's like quite compact. Like you've got a lot of like corridors and like angular edges to really like utilize that bounce mechanic. There's one really long corridor, so people just sat in the middle, moved up and down, and just fired straight up and down. And the projectiles work off bounces, not distance, so they would just like
bounce 7 times before dying. So the idea was people would just walk up and down this corridor firing, and the only way you could get them is if you like sort of predicted where they were coming, then angled it around the corner, which is sort of like what we want the gameplay to be like anyway, like that creative sort of play. But
not intended, no.
yeah, there was only about 3 or 4 people who did it, but 3 or 4 people discovered that was a thing. So then we were like, oh, maybe let's change the angle of the wall. Like it bounces front to be like this, so it doesn't bounce up, and instead it bounces off in a different angle.
Things like that.
Yeah, level design wise as well, the players spawn in the corners of the map, and initially I designed it so it was boxed, so that if someone fired into that, it would bounce on an angle that would potentially destroy the projectile before it reached where the player spawned, so they weren't spawn killed. However, we found that a lot of people were, as soon as they spawned, well, as you naturally would do, you just move straight away to get back into the action. And if there was a stray projectile just coming in that general direction, it might kill you. Online, there's I think it's a 4 or 5 second invincibility period when you spawn. Steve didn't put that in for Splitscreen, so there's quite a few people dying on spawn, and we're like, for God's sake. But surprisingly, a lot of the time it was more of a positive reaction than a negative one. Like a lot of people were like getting more competitive because they weren't like, it didn't appear as though they felt cheated, which is a weird sort of feeling. But it's something we definitely want to address anyway.
The respawn's not massive. It still needs reducing. That's one of the things we took away from EGX. Like the respawn was still too long. But you die and you're back in pretty quickly.
It's like a 5-second respawn period. Something else we designed for EGX was, rather than having traditional death screen in normal games where you die and it said, oh, you've died, and it showed your character fall over and then respawn, we had it so you possessed basically another character when you died, which is called death character. It was just basically an invisible cylinder that had no collision. And it had lurked from the point where you died to the point where you're now going to spawn. So it had zoomed the camera out so players can see the map a bit more, and then move to the spawn point. For the purpose of EGX, being able to show people the actual map and get them to learn the map easier was a massive thing, because obviously they're only going to spend 5 minutes, maybe even less than 5 minutes if someone's really good at the game and they reach the max score. They're going to struggle to learn this map, despite it being like, it's not that big, it's quite small. But that was just something we were like, okay, if you've died, rather than you being taken out of the action for 5 seconds, you're now like, oh, okay, this is what the map looks like, sort of thing.
Awesome. Cool. Good job, guys.
Yeah.